So I have to ask you a question, and I feel like anyone who has ever managed a team is going to relate to this. Have you ever hired a candidate who just, I mean, they absolutely crushed the interview?
Oh, yeah.
Like they spoke with just ultimate confidence, they commanded the room, and then 6 months later, they completely flatlined the second they hit the actual sales floor.
It is, it's honestly the single most expensive magic trick in the corporate world.
Yeah.
You know, you think you've hired this absolute rainmaker, and then you're sitting there looking at an empty pipeline just wondering, like, what went wrong?
You are definitely not alone in that experience, I promise you.
Hmm.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly why that happens, and we're bypassing the usual, interview platitudes. We're speaking directly to you, the sales leaders, the executives, the hiring managers who actually have to carry that revenue number.
Right, the ones feeling the pressure.
Exactly. So we've been looking at some really brilliant, unvarnished insights from Win Nathan Davis and the sales experts on this exact phenomenon.
Hmm.
And the main mission for our deep dive today is to really unpack why traditional hiring metrics fail. Because the reality we have to confront is that almost everything we traditionally rely on in a sales interview is, well, it's essentially a smokescreen.
Yeah, complete smokescreen. Because, think about it. We are fundamentally evaluating them in the wrong environment.
Right.
We bring these candidates into a nice air-conditioned conference room or maybe a Zoom call for 60 minutes. It's a super low-stakes, highly controlled, meticulously rehearsed scenario.
Oh, totally.
But genuine sales success, that is forged in a high-stakes, chaotic environment. It's defined by, constant rejection, friction, and just ambiguity.
I always look at the standard interview process like a software demo environment.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Right. Like when a company gives you a demo of their tech, it looks absolutely flawless. The data is perfectly mocked up, all the variables are controlled, and the sales engineer knows exactly which buttons to avoid pressing so the system doesn't crash on the call.
Yeah, they stick to the happy paths.
Exactly, the happy path. But then buying that software and actually deploying it into your real-world production environment where your real users are breaking things and your API integrations fail, that is a completely different reality.
That really is.
And I feel like a confident interviewee is just giving you their flawless demo.
Mm.
It tells you, absolutely nothing about how they handle the production environment of a really ruthless fourth quarter.
That is the perfect distinction right there. The illusion of confidence, right? That's the trap that catches even the most seasoned executives. We tend to conflate really strong communication skills with genuine commercial capability.
Right.
Sales professionals are, by definition, professional communicators. They know how to mirror your body language.
Oh, they're so good at that.
They are. They know how to articulate a value proposition,
Yeah.
and they know exactly what a hiring manager wants to hear. But, communication is just the vehicle. It is not the engine.
Right, right.
The real engine of sales success is that gritty daily discipline of pipeline generation and deal management.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit, because as hiring managers, I think we fall for that illusion because of our own confirmation bias. Like we have an empty territory, the board is breathing down our necks.
You're desperate to just fill the seat.
Yes, you're desperate. So when someone walks in and sounds the part, your brain just kind of fills in the blanks. We want to believe the demo is real. So if we strip away the demo and we ignore the confident charm, how do we actually access the production code?
Well, according to the sales experts, you have to look at the absolute foundational truth, which is past performance. That is the only reliable predictor.
Past performance.
You're right. But here's where executive teams usually drop the ball. They just accept the candidate's version of their past performance on the honor system.
Oh, yeah. I hit 200% of quota.
Exactly. A candidate says, oh, I grew revenue by 200%, or I consistently hit 150%, and the interviewer just sort of nods and checks the box.
Right, because everybody pads their resume in sales. I closed a $10 million deal.
Uh-huh.
Okay, sure. But did you actually source that deal, or did the VP of sales bring you in at the 11th hour just to, manage the DocuSign?
Exactly. So to extract the truth, you have to dramatically shift your interrogation tactics. You have to move from just passive listening to basically doing a forensic audit.
A forensic audit. I like that. What does that actually look like in the room?
You dissect the anatomy of their previous deals. You don't just ask, hey, did you hit your number? You ask them to break down the exact origins of their pipeline, like how much of their target was achieved through inherited accounts versus, net new logos that they had to hunt themselves.
That's a huge distinction.
Huge. And you ask, what was the catalyst for your biggest win? And honestly, more importantly, what was the structural failure in your biggest loss?
I would even push it further based on the source material. The insights suggest we need to demand the
The
receipts.
literal receipts, yeah.
Yeah. If a candidate claims to be in the top 1% of earners at their firm, there is zero reason you shouldn't ask for W-2s or commission statements during the final stages of vetting.
100%.
Or at the very least, conduct rigorous back-channel reference checks with their former RevOps leaders,
Right.
not just the 3 friendly colleagues they decided to list on the application.
If you don't demand that verification, you're honestly just complicit in inflating their resume. And the most critical metric you're trying to verify here is their ability to generate revenue, specifically pipeline generation.
Right.
Because in a lot of organizations, closing is actually the easy part of the cycle. The true test is whether they can look at a completely barren territory and just systematically manufacture opportunities from scratch.
Which, brings up a really fascinating structural dynamic.
Yeah.
So let's assume we've done the forensic audit. We've checked the W-2s. We know they legitimately hunted those deals. Their metrics are completely pristine. Now, a really common executive assumption is that if we have a verified top-tier closer, we could just drop them into our organization and watch them print money.
Yeah.
Like a closer is a closer, right? Shouldn't they be able to sell anything to anyone?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that is probably the single most destructive myth in sales recruitment.
Probably the most destructive.
Absolutely. Because it completely ignores the nuance of the commercial environment. Let's elevate this past the basic, hunter versus farmer conversation. I mean, obviously, you don't put a relationship-focused account manager in a hardcore cold calling role. Executives know that.
Yeah, that's table stakes.
Right? Where companies actually bleed money is in the really subtle, invisible misalignments of the sales environment.
Give me an example of that invisible misalignment, because I see this all the time. Hiring managers will routinely poach top reps from their biggest competitors. They assume it's just a plug-and-play scenario, and then it just completely fails.
Okay, let's look at marketing air cover and brand equity. Imagine you have a superstar account executive working at the undisputed market leader in your space.
Like the 800-pound gorilla in the industry.
Exactly. When they pick up the phone, the prospect instantly recognizes the company name. That rep has massive marketing budgets, generating warm inbound leads for them. They have an army of SDRs booking their meetings and dedicated sales engineers doing all the heavy technical lifting.
Wow. Okay.
They are incredibly successful, yes, but their environment is heavily subsidized.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
And then, say, a Series A startup comes along and poaches them.
Yeah.
They offer them this massive base salary, fully expecting them to replicate that exact same success. But at the startup, literally nobody knows who they are.
Nobody.
There's no inbound marketing. There are no SDRs handing them meetings.
Exactly. That work's entire playbook relies on leveraging brand trust that simply does not exist at the new company. They don't actually know how to build credibility from absolute zero because, honestly, they haven't had to do it in 5 years.
Wow.
You haven't just changed the logo on their business card. You fundamentally changed the physics of their sales motion.
I love that framing, changing the physics of the motion. It's kind of like taking an elite Formula One driver and just dropping them into a rally car on a dirt track.
That is exactly it.
I mean, yeah, they both drive cars incredibly fast, but the mechanics, the reflexes, the environmental friction, it's totally alien to them.
It's a completely different sport at that point. And another massive variable here is internal complexity, like selling a product where the founder is just constantly swooping in to save the deal versus selling in a highly mature, really heavily matrixed organization.
Oh, the internal friction is huge. If a rep is used to this highly agile, founder-led startup where they can just, bypass legal and offer 20% discount on the last day of the quarter just to win the deal.
Which happens all the time.
Right, but then they move to an enterprise environment that requires strict adherence to internal pricing committees and, complex procurement approvals.
Right.
They're going to suffocate.
They will. They'll get frustrated, their deals will just stall out internally, and they will ultimately fail.
So the actionable takeaway here for the executives listening right now is that you absolutely cannot write a generic job description.
No, you can't.
Before you even look at a single CV, you have to ruthlessly map your exact commercial reality.
Yeah.
Document your air cover, your internal bottlenecks, your brand equity, all those specific friction points in your buyer's journey. And then you filter the candidates strictly against those specific environmental demands.
Because if you misalign the environment, you are actively setting them up for failure. I mean, you are forcing a new hire to learn your product, learn your industry, and learn an entirely new psychological approach to selling all at the exact same time.
Which is impossible.
Right. It dramatically extends their ramp time, and in most cases, they never actually reach full productivity.
Okay, let's transition to the consequences of this, because we really have to put a dollar figure on getting this wrong.
Yeah.
The financial stakes that Win Nathan Davis outlines are, I mean, they're sobering, to say the least.
They really are.
We all know a bad hire costs you their base salary and, the recruiter fee, but that is really just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
Oh, the salary is a rounding error compared to the true cost.
Really a rounding error.
Yeah, because the real damage is the invisible hole in your balance sheet. It is the opportunity cost. I mean, think about a premium territory. While your bad hire is spending 6 months failing to understand the product, alienating your prospects, and burning through all your high-value leads, your competitors are actively closing those deals.
Man, that's painful to think about. It's the revenue that a competent, capable salesperson would have generated in that exact same seat.
Exactly.
Plus, there is the collateral damage internally. Like, think about the management time drained, the pipeline reviews that just evolve into, therapy sessions.
Oh, I've been in those. They are awful.
And the VP of sales having to step in and try to salvage accounts. A bad sales hire creates this vortex that just sucks the momentum out of the entire commercial team. We are talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in lost enterprise value for a single bad hire.
Which brings us to, frankly, the methodology of prevention. This raises an important question, right? If the conversational interview is a trap and the cost of failure is catastrophic, what do?
Right.
The only logical response is to implement structured, experiential candidate assessments. You have to stop talking to them about what they would do and force them to actually do it.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
A lot of hiring managers really push back on rigorous assessments because they're terrified of creating friction in the hiring process. They're like, well, if we make them jump through hoops, present case studies, and do these extensive role plays, we're going to scare off the top talent. The market is just too competitive to demand that much.
I hear that all the time, but that is a fundamental misunderstanding of top-tier psychology. Elite sales professionals actually respect a rigorous process. If they see that you hire people based on just a friendly chat and a firm handshake, they instantly know your sales floor is probably full of mediocre talent.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, a rigorous assessment signals to a top performer that you take revenue generation seriously. It shows them that they will be surrounded by other high-caliber professionals who actually had to earn their seat.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Elite talent wants to run with other elite talent.
Exactly.
So what does a genuinely effective structured assessment look like? Because we aren't talking about that cliche, sell me this pen nonsense, right?
No, absolutely not. It needs to be a highly specific simulation of your actual commercial reality. You engineer a scenario based on a deal you actually recently lost.
So brutal. Okay.
You give them the background data, you give them the technical constraints, and you have them run a discovery call where you, as the interviewer, play the role of a hostile or maybe just indifferent stakeholder.
You really want to see them in the mud.
Exactly.
You want to see how they handle the objection when the technical buyer says, your product is too expensive and lacks this key feature. Do they tremble? Do they get super defensive? Or do they expertly isolate the objection, reframe the value, and somehow regain control of the narrative?
You are stress testing their commercial reflexes. I mean, you can teach new hire your product features in a week. That's easy.
Sure.
But you cannot teach them the emotional regulation required to salvage a multi-threaded deal that is completely stalling at procurement. The assessment separates the candidates who just know the theory of sales from the candidates who actually have the muscle memory to execute it.
But, okay, this introduces a massive logistical nightmare for the executive team.
What's that?
The people who actually have that muscle memory, right? The top 1% who can effortlessly pass a brutal structured assessment, they aren't looking for jobs.
And this is the fatal flaw in most corporate recruitment strategies. Companies rely heavily on inbound applications, but the active job-seeking pool is heavily skewed toward people who are running from something.
Right, like they missed their quota, they got put on a PIP, or maybe their company is failing.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the genuine rainmakers, they are too busy hitting the third tier of their commission accelerators to even update their LinkedIn profiles, let alone scroll through job boards.
They don't even know your job exists.
No. They are completely invisible to your standard HR process.
Which is why relying on inbound applications just puts you at a severe structural disadvantage. So if you want to achieve ultimate sales success, you really have to transition from this sort of passive hiring posture to an aggressive, highly specialized headhunting methodology.
Yes.
And this is exactly where organizations like the sales experts demonstrate their immense value. They don't just post ads and wait around.
No, they do the heavy lifting. They conduct deep market research to identify the exact profiles that map perfectly to your unique environment.
They essentially act as your tactical acquisition team. They figure out who is currently dominating your competitors' territories, and they proactively disrupt their day to present a highly tailored opportunity.
Exactly. They expand your candidate pool to include the people you would quite literally never see otherwise. It is pure risk mitigation.
Absolutely.
When you factor in that multi-million-dollar opportunity cost of a bad hire we talked about, investing in specialized targeted headhunting isn't just some operational expense. It is a strategic imperative to protect your revenue targets.
It's the difference between just hoping the right person miraculously walks through the door and going out to extract the exact right person from the market.
Exactly.
Man, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. From dismantling the interview smokescreen to the absolute necessity of mapping your commercial environment. But as we wrap up, I want to pivot the spotlight back onto you, the listener.
I think the most challenging reality check for any executive team to mull over is this. If we accept that the absolute best sales professionals are currently employed, they're perfectly content, and they're making massive commissions for someone else,
Right.
what is your organization doing right now to make your environment irresistible to them?
That is the ultimate question. Because when that headhunter finally taps the top performer on the shoulder on your behalf, you better have a really compelling narrative.
It can't just be about base salary.
No, it can't. Are your internal processes streamlined? Is your product genuinely solving a real market pain point? Is your sales culture one of high-performance enablement, or is it just toxic micromanagement?
You really have to earn the right to hire the top 1%. And that requires brutal internal honesty before you ever even open a headcount requisition.
Absolutely. So before your next search, take a hard look at your success profile and your internal environment. And if you are an executive looking to deeply understand how to structure these complex assessments or how elite headhunting methodologies actually operate in practice, I highly encourage you to go to thesalesexperts.com.
Yes, definitely.
Dive into their Q&A section. It is incredibly rich with the tactical blueprints required to build those high-performance revenue engines.
It is mandatory reading if you want to stop guessing and start engineering predictable revenue.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us on this deep dive. The next time you are sitting across from a candidate who gives you that flawless, super charismatic pitch, remember the demo environment. Remember the demo environment. Don't buy the software until you've tested it in production. Keep elevating those teams. Keep driving that revenue, and we will see you on the next deep dive.